Welcome into Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Jeffrey Cooperstein. Shout out and happy hump day. Happy NBA Finals Eve. Hope everyone is enjoying their week so far. This news came down last night that the New York Knicks are going to register interest in Jason Kidd, the Mavericks head coach. The Knicks obviously fired their head coach, Tom Thibodeau, yesterday after making the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. And Marc Stein says the Knicks do have some level of interest in Kidd being their next head coach. We will react to the news here in just a moment, but I want to ask you guys to start off today's show. Do you want Jason Kidd to stay in Dallas as head coach of the Mavericks? If you want him to stay, go ahead and type S. If you want him to go, type G down there in the comment section. I think Jason Kidd is a pretty polarizing figure around Mavericks land, so let me know down in the comments which side of the aisle you stand on. All right, Marc Stein said this. He said, it's expected the Mavericks would not grant permission to the Knicks to interview Jason Kidd, but a read on their position could not be immediately confirmed on Tuesday night. And if you know Marc Stein, he is probably the most plugged-in Mavericks insider there is. And so it sounds like that the Mavericks would have little to no interest in Jason Kidd leaving the Mavs to become the Knicks head coach. And like he said, the Mavs would have to grant permission to the New York Knicks in order for Kidd to end up leaving. And there's no reason for the Mavericks to let Kidd go, especially now with their current roster construction and everything they've gone through over the past 6 months from the basically entire franchise turnover in the marquee player, in the front office, and all of that kind of stuff in the training staff. I don't think there's any reason to let Kidd go right now. We talked about yesterday or the day before about how continuity is important in a coaching staff, and Jason Kidd going into his 5th season that's one of the good things he has going for him is the continuity, and there's been some familiar faces on that coaching staff. And not to mention, the Knicks would have to trade for Jason Kidd. Kidd still has 2 years left on his deal, and I know that trades in the NBA with coaches aren't super common, but they do happen, and the Knicks would have to give the Mavericks compensation in order to bring Jason Kidd on if they chose to do so. Doc Rivers was traded from the Celtics to the Clippers, and they got a first-round pick back in 2015. Jason Kidd was traded from the the Brooklyn Nets, to the Milwaukee Bucks, I believe, for a couple second-round picks, and then Stan Van Gundy back in 2007 or 8, whatever, was traded from the Miami Heat to the Orlando Magic. So if coaches are under contract, the team that is losing their coach can request compensation, and if the Mavericks wanted to go down this route, they absolutely would request compensation from the Knicks in order for them to hire Jason Kidd. But my whole take on this is Jason Kidd's a relationship guy, and with Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis on this roster who do have established relationships with Jason Kidd, I see no reason for the Mavericks to make a move off of him right now. I do think he's the right guy for now. That can absolutely change over the next year or so, but for now, I think Jason Kidd's the right guy to lead this team. All in all, I think he did a really good job last season with the Mavericks, given the fallout from the Luka trade and how the team battled down the stretch. Thought Kidd had a really good year, to be honest with you. And he does have 2 years left on his contract, like I said, after signing an extension last summer. So, look, it's possible that the Mavericks don't think Jason Kidd is a long-term answer, but in the short term, I think it would be extremely short-sighted of this team to let Jason Kidd go to the Knicks, and it doesn't sound like they're going to. So that's not something we really have to worry about. But I'll say this to you guys as well. Be careful what you wish for when it comes to Jason Kidd and you wanting to fire him or let him go or whatever the case may be. You may not think he's the best coach in the world, but there are a few better options for the Mavericks right now. And I know there's some veteran head coaches out there on the market like Taylor Jenkins, like Tom Thibodeau, like Michael Malone. But are we sure that those guys would get the best out of this Mavericks team right now? As the Mavs are currently constructed, I do believe Kidd is the right man for the job. That can obviously change in the next year or so, like I said. But at the moment, I think Kidd's going to stay with the Mavs. I think the Mavs want Kidd to stay here. So I think this is pretty much a non-story. But it is, I guess, flattering in a way that the Knicks do have interest in bringing Jason Kidd along because that means he's doing somewhat of a good job. I want to ask you this, though. Let's play a hypothetical game here. If Jason Kidd does go, who would you hire as the Mavericks' next head coach? Shout out that guy down in the comment section. I know there's going to be a variety of answers on this one, and I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. We're going to talk about a ridiculous article here in just a few moments, but I need to tell you guys about a sponsor of today's show, which, of course, is Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks has over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, making daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just make more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. The big question, do you know ball? There's only one series left in the playoffs, and the championship is officially on the line. That means time is running out for you to put your final takes to the test on PrizePicks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states, including California, Georgia, Florida, and, of course, Texas. Join millions of users and sign up today. PrizePicks also invented the flex play, which means you can cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. Here is my lineup for game 1. I'm going to take Miles Turner, the more on 5 rebounds. I'm going to take the less on Tyrese Halliburton, 17.5 points. And I'll take the more on SGA, free throws attempted. You can make a lineup of your own, or you can copy my picks. Just do it with our friends over at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get a $50 bonus when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive that bonus. It is guaranteed. Again, download the app and use code CLNS to get a $50 bonus when you play your first $5 lineup. It is PrizePicks. Run your game. Oh boy. ESPN released an article a couple of days ago about trade ideas for the number 1 overall pick that the Dallas Mavericks should consider trading it for other assets. And let me get out in front of this. I want to say it would be absurd of the Mavericks to trade the number 1 overall pick. Cooper Flagg is the best asset that the Mavericks can have out of any of these on a rookie contract. It's ridiculous. But I had to show you guys these trade ideas, and I want to get your opinions on them. Let's start with trade number 1 from the rival down I-35 in the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs receive the number 1 overall pick, and the Mavericks get pick number 2 and 14 overall from the Spurs this year, a 2027 first-round pick from the Hawks, and they get their 2030 pick swap rights return, which they traded last year. And I believe it was the maneuver to get Daniel Gafford. So they would get those back as well. Look, this is out of the 3, I think this would be the most enticing offer, but it's still not an offer I would even come close to taking. Get a load of this trade, though. This idea from ESPN, this number 2. A 4-team deal involving the Mavericks, the Lakers, Cavs, and Bulls. The Mavericks receive Donovan Mitchell. They receive a 2031 first-round pick, 28 and 2030 pick swaps. Do the Mavericks not already have a 6-foot guard that can't defend on their team whose primary ability is ball handling and scoring? Oh, wait, that's Kyrie Irving. Then you have the Cavaliers getting the number 1 overall pick for Javon Carter, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, PJ Washington, and Daniel Gafford. The Lakers receive Jared Allen. The Lakers make out the best in all of this as they get their center of the future in Jared Allen. And then the Bulls on the back end receive Dalton Knecht, Caleb Martin, and 3 second-round picks. Whoever came up with this trade should be fired from their job. That is an absolutely embarrassing trade idea to come up with. And if you think the Mavericks would even entertain the idea of trading for Donovan Mitchell and running with the backcourt of Kyrie and Donovan Mitchell, I need to sell you a beachfront house in Nebraska. It is just simply not happening. And whoever came up with the idea, you should be embarrassed with yourself. Let's move on to trade number 3. That pissed me off even looking at that. This one's just as crazy, by the way. The Mavericks received Devin Booker, a 2025 first-round pick, number 29 overall, and then a 28 first-round pick and a 29 swap. The Suns get number 1 overall, Klay Thompson, Caleb Martin, PJ Washington, and Najee Marshall. First of all, the Suns are not trading Devin Booker. That is not happening, as Devin Booker is so ingrained in the Suns' future, in the Suns' present, that he was sitting in on head coach interviews for the Suns' next head coach. He will not be moved by Matt Ishbia and the Phoenix Suns. That's just not happening. Number 2, I don't know if this still stands because it was kind of a Luka and Booker beef, but Devin Booker absolutely had beef with the Dallas Mavericks. Now, like I said, now that Luka's not on the team, maybe that's gone. But still, the Suns aren't trading Booker, so I think that's kind of a non-starter. Like I said, I think number 1 is the best offer, but they all suck. Like, I wouldn't even consider any of these. If the GM of the San Antonio Spurs called me with that pick, I would say thanks, but no thanks. And then the other 2, I would just laugh at, frankly. I mean, embarrassing. Look, none of these trades are good, but I want to cycle through them once again. And you can tell me which one is your favorite. You can just go to the 2 on the trade number 2 column as well. If you think this number 1 is the best one between the Mavericks and the Spurs, you can type 1. If you think trade number 2, this 4-team ridiculous deal, is your favorite, go ahead and type 2. Or if you think the Mavs getting Devin Booker in exchange for Martin, Thompson, Washington, Marshall, and number 1 is your favorite, go ahead and type 3 down below. Like I said, number 1 is the lesser evil of all 3 of those, but they all absolutely stink. That's going to be it for today's show, guys. Appreciate you for tuning in to Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. If anything happens with Jason Kidd and the New York Knicks, we'll have you covered here on the channel. And, of course, if anything happens regarding the Mavericks, trade rumors, free agency, all of that, that's why you subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/MavsTV. We'll catch you guys later.